Okay, let's get started. I'm Greg Borellis, the Membership and Business Development Director at ABC Greater Michigan. For any of you that don't know me, normally for the speaker events that we've done in the past, Kathy Geiger has been the moderator, but she had to be away this week for a conference for ABC, learning everything that she needs to know to come back and help us out. So with that said, I'm going to quickly get right to the point, and I'd like to introduce Kelly Juday, the Executive Director of Great Lakes Bay Safety Center. Many of you already know her as um, our membership pretty much know her pretty well, and the Great Lakes Safety Center. So Kelly will be discussing safety issues and what we can learn from strong leadership, how strong leadership plays a role in the parts of the safety culture, especially during this time in COVID. So Kelly, you can take it away.
Great, thanks, Greg. And I'm going to go ahead and make a few clicks here to share my screen. So screen 2, give me a second. Hopefully y'all can see that, and I'll get the presentation started here. All right, I think we're ready to go. So even with all these changes this last year, it's still a matter of jumping on and making sure technology is working to your advantage. So I think we're ready to go. But first of all, Greg, thank you to you and ABC of Greater Michigan for hosting us. We want to take a look at some of the past accomplishments and how we've adapted to leading during this world of COVID that we've all had to go through. So I'm going to recap a little bit of the last year and look at opportunities into the future. So first of all, what I want to take a look at and kind of clarify with everyone is Great Lakes Safety has remained open, even with our in-person training from the beginning. Even as we had to adapt. And what I'm showing here next, this is just a snapshot of what we have put together for our pandemic response plan and our COVID-19 response plan. Our plan is actually several pages long and a lot more in detail, but this is just a snapshot of the checklist of things that we are doing on a regular basis. And, as we all know, it's changing minute by minute. But we've established this plan. Here's a quick snapshot of it here. I know you can't read a lot of that information here. But this was really key in making sure that we were as up to date and current as we could be with the everlasting changes that went into place. All of it obviously is without saying to make sure we are keeping our staff and our students healthy during all this change. So with that, obviously, not only us, but several organizations have had to implement several COVID safety precautions. So I'm just going to go through a list of them that we are practicing here still to this day and kind of inform you of what we have done as a small business in this area, and hoping the whole presentation will help you and your organizations to either verify or look at opportunities for added protection or opportunities for leadership to help as we navigate during these times. Obviously, masks are required for entrance into our building and for both instructors, our students, and our employees. We have plexiglass barriers around to separate, to make sure we're maintaining all of the social distancing requirements. It's a new word that we've all had to learn over this last year, but pretty much I don't think there's anybody, unless you live under a rock, that doesn't know what that means at this point. But we have made sure we have cleared out space, and where we couldn't, we have barriers, the plexiglass barriers put up. Hand sanitation stations have been placed strategically throughout our building, outside of classrooms, by our steps, in our hands-on lab. But we also have, I'm sure many of you have seen them if you've come to our location, little personal hand sanitizers to take. We're happy to make sure we provide those to our students while they are here, to take with them as they leave. One of the biggest challenges has been limiting our class sizes. We were just talking with our management team earlier today in a meeting, how it took us years to really increase our efficiencies of what we do here at Great Lakes Safety by, having one instructor to teach as many as we safely can in a classroom and on the stop of a dime. And we turned around and, we were limited on the number of people we could have in a room, but we are still maintaining that with the distancing, as we move forward. So we're really proud that we can do it, even though it's limited sizes, more classes, but limited sizes. We're staying on top of that as well as making sure we're not congregating in any of our public areas. We've increased our disinfecting and sanitizing routines, which we're never going to let that go away. I mean, it's really been a good exercise for us, during breaks when we can, especially at the lunchtime and at the end of each day, sanitizing and disinfecting all areas where either our students have sat, where they could have touched. It really has opened our eyes to keeping people healthy by doing those routines. But one of the biggest things we've recently done, and literally just finished this just a few short weeks ago, is we have updated our air quality. And when I say that, we have made a six-figure investment into our furnaces, our ERV units, state-of-the-art air filters that we have, all in a project that actually started even before COVID hit, to help with the temperature control and some areas that were in our classroom spaces that were a little challenged even before COVID hit. So we are very proud and happy to say we went through a full investigation of opportunities to improve that air quality, worked with an engineering firm to come in and hygienists to come in and verify our air quality. And thanks to Three Rivers, if anybody from Three Rivers is on the call, for actually bidding and working on that project for us. We have got top-notch quality of air in our classrooms. We're very proud of that fact, to keep everybody safe, including our instructors that are in there. And then finally, we're also still in the process of daily health screenings. It's verbal for our students that come in, but we've actually made it an electronic screening for our staff through like a survey software that we have, that every morning before they come into the office, just asking those questions. Please stay away if you're not feeling good, making sure there's no temperature and exposures to anybody with COVID. We're very proud to say that has worked very successfully at our business, even with the amount of people that we have coming in and out of our doors on a daily basis. So I'm sure this is familiar to most of you for things that you are doing at your locations as well. But I just wanted to go over and kind of get a little bit more in depth as to what we're doing here. So obviously it's interesting if you can read and take a look at this picture. Our world has turned upside down. Still true today, even after 14 months of dealing with this virus. We've had to learn so many new phrases, words. Again, very hard to read a lot of this information. Zoom has become a daily name for us now, the way we're having meetings. But, we asked you about your pandemic and disaster plan earlier, and what other questions that, I want you to think about, or how have you been dealing with these fast changing guidelines? Many of the organizations we work with have had to have, layoffs and furloughs, but still remaining active into essential activities. How did you keep your doors open? We've had to react daily to the changes that are happening, and especially in the construction area. And how are we monitoring, and how are we continuing to look at that pandemic plan as it changes daily? So I want to get a little bit more into that. We've all had, working in safety like we do, it's always been a top concern of looking at the risky activities that we've had to monitor and educate those on safety. Now you add the added influx of COVID and all the restrictions and guidelines that are there. how are we treating our everyday activities and communicating and engaging our employees? Obviously, it's very challenging with not only remote work, but the social distancing and PPE requirements, but how are we effectively communicating? So, I've reached out to several of our members to ask them some questions, and I came up with 3 questions that I thought were very pertinent that I'd like to kind of share some of the results with you. So the first question really came to, how are you effectively communicating these safety topics to your employees during these COVID times with social distancing and the PPE requirements, et cetera? The majority of the feedback I got was most have gone to smaller outdoor preferred socially distanced meetings. Obviously, they can't take place all the time. It's very difficult during the winter months, of course, but trying to do it within site guidelines, but smaller groups seems to have been a key in how people are trying to get together to share their safety messages. Some organization emailed specific safety messages out to their teams based on where they were working and depending upon location. Emailing became important. Virtual videos or use of mobile devices. A company in particular, that's pretty much how they do all their meetings right now is through use of the virtual videos or using of mobile devices. Others talked about a safety newsletter that they have that really highlights the importance of key areas. So basically all are adjusting to the COVID parameters that we have, but it's still very challenging. But I think as we continue on here, hearing the feedback from all the different companies, a lot are working together and learning from each other. How is the best way to adapt safely? And overall, keeping that dedication to safety is key. And the question as to why are we doing what we are doing? The second question I asked is, again, safety on its own, even without COVID protocols, is difficult to monitor and make sure we have everybody engaged to make the right decisions on those risky behaviors. So you add, all the COVID restrictions, information that we have on top of that. How can you still stay focused even on your everyday physical activities that you're doing to remain safe? So some of the answers that I had received was, speaking to mindfulness and doing your best just to not talking about the fact to do your best to not let distractions carry you away. One company in particular I talked to said they're using different pay incentives or increased PTO time. And this is after they talk to their employees about, what would be helpful to you at this time to keep you focused and on safety during these challenging times. Another company we talked to also invited supervisors onto their leadership team. And that was really in an effort to stay on the pulse of what the employees are actually doing out there and keep them involved in the decision making and buying that connection in by having those supervisors that are working with the teams to give feedback and again, keep them involved in what's going on with the day-to-day thought processes for those that are out there doing some of the heavier duty work. But all in all, smaller groups seem to lead to more in-depth conversations that can get everybody's commitment to buy into safety. So one mentioned that with each new challenge comes a new opportunity. And I think we've learned that over this last year, or a little over a year. But by all in all, I think the majority of our members have a positive culture. And they're working hard to stay sharp and on target when it comes to some of the education on safety and communicating with these team members. So the last question I asked, pretty much got a lot of the same responses here, but what has been the biggest challenge in your safety activities over the last year? The biggest feedback or the first and foremost reply was the lack of eye contact and face-to-face meetings. I mean, even though we're trying to get together in smaller groups, we were so used to the impact of having big team meetings and conversations centered around that. But making sure everybody has viewed and participated in all of those is still very challenging, but missing out on that contact that we get from the face-to-face meetings. Another big challenge that was mentioned was consistency. So with the COVID protocols, we're working on different sites or especially here in Midland where we're located and in our I-Park where a lot of our member companies and where a lot of work is in this area. Each company has their own playbook or their guidelines for coming back to work. And it's hard for these member companies or construction companies that we work with here to stay on top of all the expectations because they could be a little bit different for each organization. So that consistency is obviously a challenge. Also was of concern is the fact that everybody's got their own medical opinions and political opinions in relation to COVID. It's very hard to stay focused on that safety aspect that you want to be discussing that day when feedback from other areas is coming into play. So trying to stay focused is definitely been a concern. But another concern that was frequently mentioned by all of the members that I talked to was the worrying about the employees' stress and difficulties outside of work. Do they have kids at home? Do they have adults that are in home care that had, especially early on, a lot more concerns before we had any vaccine information? Talking about vaccines there, what are they doing? Are some getting vaccines? Are some not? How are we making sure we're making decisions to accommodate everybody when a lot of the rulings coming out now are more specific, if it goes towards you, if you have your vaccine or if you don't have your vaccine. So, real challenges that are out there for everybody, but not only on the workforce, but at home. One company mentioned too that something that they're trying to do to break the routine of just gloom and doom conversations when they do get together to have these toolbox talks or meetings is trying to come up with like a spirit day or something fun or some kind of game to get everybody involved with and help with those incentives to just try and get some smiles out there. But out of everything and asking these questions, the common denominator that I found, there's definitely challenges along the way, but communications, strong communications, actively sharing and listening to the employees are key to breaking down a lot of these challenging barriers that are out there. So I did want to take a quick second to mention, as we're gathering to talk about safety topics, Great Lakes Safety does have access gives access to our members to an online video library. This library has over 600 different training and educational videos on it. They're about 10 to 20 minute videos and they're available at any time at no additional cost to our members. So it is a great tool to utilize if you're doing any of the virtual or Zoom sessions for some of your safety meetings. It's a great tool to have. So please jump to our website, which again, I will mention here at this point too. At the end of this presentation, I have 2 pages that are nothing but links to the different resources that hopefully can help you if you've got concerns in certain areas. So I will share that at the end of this presentation. You will have access to that in those links and to research some more information if you so choose. Next, I'd like to talk at what is very real in everybody's mind right now. Obviously, our mental health and especially COVID fatigue. It's it's sad to say, but you look at the top picture, ahead in the computer, or just so many questions and not enough ways to answer these questions. So how are you dealing with this with your workforce? It's a very real concern out there during these times. I mean, we all just want it to get back to normal. It's been over a year. We're all tired of this pandemic, the orders, the lockdowns, the vaccine uncertainties. This mental stress is alive and real. There are distractions all around. So I want to talk a little bit about that and what you're doing at your company, or what you can offer to your employees, or even information on toolkits to help you if you recognize that somebody or one of your employees is really struggling and need help. What resources are there? So again, when I talked about the links page down below, the mental health resources such as the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and there's toolkits for recognizing mental illness, and there's also links to stress relief and stress management resources. So there will be more available through the resource page that you'll see here. So you may ask, what can you do now? One of the biggest things that we encourage and that we found to be helpful is listen to your employees. Resources are available at 211, but what we have available here at Great Lakes Safety, we have a very strong employee assistant program as well, located here in Midland. We use Family and Children's Services. And that's a great resource to have here. Many other companies, through their employee assistant programs or EAPs, also have access through their insurance companies that typically might give you an 800 number, but then will put you in place or in touch with someone locally to help, either if you're having concerns or if you're looking for ways to say, hey, I've got an employee who really seems to be struggling. What can I do for them? You can reach out to the EAP and then help give them the information that they need to direct them to help in those areas of wellness. So another piece that I want to mention real quickly too, Great Lakes Safety is also looking at opportunities to provide some sort of mental health first aid, either training in person or virtually. We're just in the beginning stages of recognizing or finding those opportunities and how we can best offer that to our membership. So more to come on that, but I did want to mention this is something that we've been serious about getting involved with. I think right before COVID attacked our country or our world, so to speak, we had also started working with Barb Smith from the Barb Smith Suicide Resource and Response Network and to help with some mental health awareness. We're still in partnership with her, but for any additional resources or information on those resources, again, with the links that I'll be sharing later, or feel free to reach out to anyone here at Great Lakes Safety, and we can try and put you in direct contact with the experts to help in those areas. I did want to take a second here too to mention next Tuesday, I believe it is, which is May 11th. We have a session we have quarterly sessions available to our membership, and our session I thought was pretty timely is well-being during this time. Looking at we've got, Kathy Snyder, who works on the Midland Area Wellbeing Coalition. She's the coordinator there, is going to be speaking at this session, and she's going to be sharing several tips to help, towards your journey of well-being. We all know diet, exercise, adequate rest, those are all guides to wellness. And we all know a healthy mind and a healthy body, helps with good decision making as well. So please stay tuned for that, or you can feel free to reach out. That'll be linked in the information that'll be shared with you, or you can always contact Jill Doherty here at Great Lakes Safety, or anybody here at Great Lakes Safety can help you in those areas as well. So again, I want to go in, now I want to transition into, what are some more tips that we can do to adapt our leadership style in this post-COVID world? So I'm just going to go through a few areas here. The first is continue to sharpen your emotional intelligence. And what I mean here is, leaders need to continue to understand their employees' daily challenges and empathize with them daily, and be flexible with them. So, and one way to do that is to, even if you're talking with your teams, even share stories of your own struggles. Being honest and raw about what you're going through helps those employees to understand, they're not alone in this, and it puts more trust, between your team. So please be open yourself to those opportunities, but just get to understand and know all of the things that your employees are going through. And that'll just help to make better sound decisions, especially in safety as we move forward. The next step is, again, continue to communicate. Focus on whatever communications we can, be it in person or through virtual communications, to continue to build that trust. Keep that open line of communication. And again, trying to make it personal is really a strong trait in leading to better communication styles and get that engagement that you're looking for. As I mentioned earlier, one of the other companies I had talked to regarding some of the questions we were asking about what's really happening out there in the field is to get people involved in company decisions. So invite your employees to participate in leader discussions where it makes sense. It really keeps you engaged and on the pulse of what is really happening in there if you're able to set those expectations with your employees. But again, it more leads to that trust, that value, that building that relationship between, leadership and those employees to stay what's on the pulse of what's happening to make better informed decisions. And I think we do a really good job on this, just because so many of our members, not only with Great Lakes Safety, but we have several joint members that are also members with ABC and Great Lakes Safety, is make sure the team understands the why. And by that, really we're doing this to keep everybody safe while on the job, but continue to set those examples and those expectations. And by having that open communication, that'll continue to build that strong safety culture that'll just ripple through all in the organization. The next tip is, again, mentioned this several times already, but just to listen, and listen. And, take those concerns that the employees may have seriously, and let them know that you value them. Respond to them, and continue to just practice compassion during this time, and grace, just understanding that we all have different distractions going on out there, be it at home as well as at work. And the more we can show our compassion and empathize with them with flexibility, the stronger that you will be perceived as a strong, impactful leader that is well respected to your team. And finally, this is always the challenge, especially right now. Keep an eye on the future. Be ready and willing to be flexible and adapt to new changes. Stay on top of what's happening all around you. I mean, even last night we had an announcement come out from, our governor's office that talked a little bit more about outdoor mask wearing, and I'm still trying to dissect that information. But monitor what's happening around you, not only to inform your employees and of what is they are enabled to do while on the job, but just trying to stay focused. Vaccines, what's happening with vaccines, what are the pros and cons, what are the current restrictions. We never knew that a pandemic was coming, but we were able to adapt because we tried to pay attention and listen to as many resources as we could out there, and use those resources to help us make better informed decisions. So I encourage you to stay on top and keep an eye on that future of what could happen next. So in transition here, I'd like to kind of mention this is a really important week for us out there, especially in the construction industry. So we're right in smack dab, being that it's a Wednesday, in the middle of National Safety Stand Down to prevent falls in construction. As most of us know, falls are still the #1 risk in construction. We emphasize our training that we do, our daily site trainings that we do here at Great Lakes Safety, and have access to use information on some of our specific fall protection trainings as well. But this week is a good week just to take a look and, is your equipment up to date? Is everybody's training up to date? Because this is the #1 killer for 10 plus years in a row. I'm not sure of the number of years in a row, but make sure this is a strong week to make sure we're focusing on fall protection. This is also Construction Safety Week. So there's links again down below to more corresponding information that gives starters, toolbox talks, different videos, and pertinent information to our industry for construction safety. Lots of different documents and checklists. It's a great site. So again, that link will be below, but I encourage you to take a peek. There's some really great materials, videos that you can be using with your teams as well. So if you haven't already, please check out that site. So as a leader and a business director here, as I've been going through a lot of the resources, especially over this last year plus of COVID, I just wanted to show some of the resources that have been favorites to me. Obviously, the CDC has a wealth of information, constantly changing, of course, but between CDC and OSHA, those have been a go-to for a lot of informational resources. The Small Business Association of Michigan as well. If you are not a member with them, you can still access their information rather easily, but they have been a wealth of knowledge, even just to sign up for their email alerts. They have been giving a lot of information. Local health departments. I know for us especially, you always look to see what others are doing in your area, but right now education has been closed down. We know several schools have been closed. They're back in session now, but what we do here with our training and our education in our classrooms is pretty consistent. And it's adult education, which most colleges are still doing things virtually. So having a relationship with our local health department has really helped to make sure we're doing what's best, not only for our staff, but for the students that come in. So a great resource from us. Of course, the National Alliance on Mental Health. Again, that resource will be shared. Great tools there. And of course, the other one I should have put down here, I was just talking to Greg about this right before everyone jumped on this call here. Was ABC, and Jimmy Green is a hero in my book because he shares resources as soon as he can to keep everybody up to speed on the changing protocols or guidelines for the organizations. So they're definitely a top resource in my book. So what do we need to continue doing during this time as leaders and as employers, supervisors? Stay vigilant for all the changes in health guidelines. Stay alert to them as they come. Listen to your employees. Continue to ask them their concerns, but really show them that you care by listening, and be empathetic to their needs and remain flexible. Keep open communication with your employees by whatever means that is. Some things are starting to open up a little bit more outdoors, not only from guidelines relaxations, but it's spring and it's summer and we'll be outside a little bit more. So if you can communicate that way, more freely, let's do so. But even if it's just a phone call or through a Teams meeting, keep those communication lines open. And don't be afraid to reach out to colleagues to see how they're handling situations. Learn from each other. A great way to get resources and see what others are doing. And we all know, we're all in this together. It's kind of interesting, 6 feet apart, but we're still in it together. So let's continue to work with each other to help each other out and share tips where we can. That'll only make us all stronger. So with that, I did mention these resources, a lot of information here. I tried to separate them into pertinent areas. So guidance for construction workers, there's some well-being resources there. The second page I have here highlights some mental health resources and some really great stress relief and stress management resources there. Again, these links will all be shared with you. But again, thank you to Greg and the team over at ABC for giving me the time to talk about, hey, what's happening out there and what are some things we can do to work together to get us through these tough times and get a light at the end of the tunnel, which I can see. It's far off in there in the distance, but at least we're starting to see that right now. So if there's any other questions, you can feel free to reach out at this point or at any time by just reaching out to us at Great Lakes Safety. If we don't have the answer, we will definitely make sure we get you the resource or put you in direction with that person, the right person or expert in that field. So thanks, Greg, for your time and, and for the opportunity to share this information with you.
Thanks, Kelly. That was a great presentation. I know I learned a lot from it. So thank you everyone for joining. And I just want to let you know that next month we have our speaker series that's moving to, going to be on June 23rd, done by Allied Imaging. The topic's going to be business technology and construction in the construction industry in 2021. So if anyone doesn't have any questions, the webinar is over. Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks again, Greg.
Bye.